is Washington's Drive at 5. Today's top stories, in-depth, breaking news, and traffic and weather every 10 minutes first on the 5s. 105.9 FM. At AM 630. WMAL.
It's 5:39 on WMAL. This is where Washington comes to talk, and we know that you are having an awful commute, especially if you're on the Beltway tonight. I mean, it's been all day, and you know that Matt DeFazio is going to be here every 10 minutes to give you the latest on that. Just keep it here. I want to talk about voter fraud. You hear from the left, you hear from progressives a lot, you hear from the media, it's not that big of a deal. You know, you may not know this, but the day I started here on WMAL, the day I signed my contract and was official, was Election Day 2012. It's kind of a fun little factoid. I can always refer back to Election Day as my first official day. That night, Brian Wilson and I actually anchored our election coverage. And we had calls, like from the moment we started that day and opened up the microphone, we had calls especially from people in Virginia telling us about really strange irregularities and stuff that they saw happen at their polling place. And it really hit home when I saw this story at watchdog.org. Watchdog.org is a great website. They look at a bunch of different government problems, issues, corruption, negligence, and Kenric Ward wrote a story about Fairfax County's election board that began uncovering this voter fraud problems 4 years ago, and the local prosecutor here in Fairfax hasn't really done anything about it. Kenric Ward joins us right now, and please tell me the details about this, sir.
Okay, Larry. This is kind of a new twist for some people. What happened is the election board in Fairfax cross-referenced their voter registrations with the jury pool, and they found in several cases, more than 200 cases, incidents where people had declined to serve on a jury because they said they were not citizens. And as you know, you need to be a citizen to vote. So they presented this information, as you said, 4 years ago to the Commonwealth Attorney, Ray Morrow, in Fairfax, and really we're asking for an investigation on the silver platter about these individuals who really should not be able to vote.
Yeah, these are people who have already admitted themselves that they're not citizens, and most people who get on the jury pool get there because they register.
Exactly. And so this is happening big time in Fairfax, and unfortunately in the category of the fish stinking from the head down, the Eric Holder Justice Department has pretty much told election officials around the country to be very careful about doing anything that would smack of voter suppression. But what we have here really is voter suppression because you have people who are voting, canceling out other people's votes. They shouldn't be on the voting rolls at all, but in fact they are voting, and the prosecutor is letting them do it.
Yeah, and this is, and by the way, if you are in Virginia, Maryland, the District of Columbia, if you have seen things like this, if you have experienced curious events when you go to vote, or if you know of any voter fraud, and have you tried to complain and you've gotten just a deaf ear, please give us a call at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Ken, you just hit on what I think is the fundamental issue here that anyone who is concerned about voter fraud needs to hit on. And that, because we're constantly told that, as you said, Eric Holder, it's voter suppression, and oftentimes they coat that with racial-based voter suppression for some reason. But the fact is, every black person, Latino person, Asian person of any kind of ethnicity, every time that they vote and they legally have the right to vote, I want to make sure that their vote counts. And they can only count if we know for sure that only the legal people are voting.
Yes, and one of the people we interviewed had a good description of this. It says that this is the Obama administration's open borders policy to voter registration. In other words, we have non-citizens, come on down. It just doesn't seem to matter. So with that kind of cover coming from Washington and a Democratic Commonwealth Attorney in Fairfax, there is just no impetus, no motivation to do anything. These cases just remain stuck.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, because you mentioned how Eric Holder and the Department of Justice is sort of giving guidelines, I think, as you put it, to the states. This is a state issue. States have the right and have the obligation, for that matter, to clean up their voter rolls. Why are the feds even sticking their nose into it at this point?
Well, you have the National Voting Rights Act, and that's a whole other story where there are some retrograde rhino Republicans who are trying to fix things up, as it were, to help Holder hold on to the power that he has. Virginia is one of the states that needs to get clearance from the federal government. This is a vestige, an antiquated vestige from the antebellum and the Reconstruction days. So that gives the feds kind of a nose under the tent to meddle in local and state elections. And that's something that Virginian politicians are always leery of. They're always, it's like we're still fighting the Civil War here.
Kenric Ward, can you stay with us just over this? We got to go to traffic because we're on a horrible traffic day. I got one more question for you. Can you stay with us?
Sure thing.
Thank you, sir. Kenric Ward from Watchdog.org talking about this mess in Fairfax County. Want to hear from you. 888-630 WMAL.
Washington's Drive at 5. Washington's Drive at 5 continues on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
It's 5:49, and we're joined here by Kenric Ward of Watchdog.org. Go check it out, Watchdog.org. Just vote on Fairfax voter fraud, and it'll pop up, this latest story. And thank you for staying with us. I have one more question. Where does this stand right now? Did you get any response from the prosecutor in Fairfax County? Are they doing anything about this?
Well, the prosecutor is totally in the bunker, hasn't returned any of our calls or emails, and they haven't responded to the election board either. But the election board is not dissuaded, even though they've made 4 requests to have this all looked into. They're going to send over some more names of duplicate voters who are registered to vote in both Maryland and Virginia. So they're going to keep the pressure on Mr. Morrow, and I think just a matter of public exposure is the way we're going to go right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, thank you for staying on this. As the story continues to develop and break, please let us know. Kenric Ward of Watchdog.org, thanks for joining us. I asked you if you've seen things, if you've experienced things, what have you experienced? Let's go to Linda in Fairfax County, right where we were just discussing. Linda, you're on WMAL.
Hi. I worked inside the polls in 2008 and 2012 as a poll watcher. And actually, I have been active in poll watching and campaign activities since 1988, and Virginia was always a fairly clean state, very honest, never had a whole lot of problems inside the polls. In 2008, I saw a huge difference, a huge change.
What specifically did you see?
To vote that couldn't speak a word of English, couldn't read a word of English, had somebody with them telling them how to vote.
Now, how to vote in terms of who to vote for?
Who to vote for, that's right.
Wow. And it just happened starting in 2008, you said?
Yes.
Now,
I noticed it, and I've been working inside the polls taking counts from machines for many years before that, and I never had anything that I had to complain about. And in 2008, there was a guy named Jose Garcias in the Glen Forest precinct who had already voted, and when somebody came in claiming to be him, they wanted to vote, and I protested to the chief election officer, who basically said, oh, well, he can vote anyway.
All right. Linda, thank you for that. And by the way, thank you for working at the polls. This is a job that we need more people doing because if you've ever seen the people who work at the polls, a lot of times you can tell that they are politically affiliated, I think, with a certain perspective, and we need people from all perspectives there. Trish in Springfield, you're next up on WMAL.
Hey,
hello,
Larry.
Trish.
I'm fascinated by the story because when I opened my mail yesterday, I had something from the Virginia Board of Elections saying that they had cross-referenced their voting records and that I was registered to vote in 2 states. And I was born and raised in Northern Virginia, and I've never lived anywhere else.
Wow.
And I've never registered to vote anywhere else. So, I'm trying to follow up on that, but apparently this is a bigger problem.
So you are registered to vote in another state right now, and you've never registered to vote anywhere.
No.
Wow.
I've lived here all my life.
That is remarkable. Trish, keep us updated on that. You can send us an email at mornings@WMAL.com. I know we have an email address for Drive at 5, but it escapes me. But I know mornings@WMAL.com works. How about Diane? Oh, you're stuck in that mess on the Beltway, Diane. I'm sorry for you, but thanks for staying with us here.
I know, it's the same almost every day. But would you repeat yourself? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying, tell us your story, Diane.
Oh, well, I took a friend of mine to the immigration office. They had to go, and as soon as you walk in the door, they've got a big sign in Spanish and in English. It says, voter registration applications here.
Wait, this is when you said an immigration office, you mean these are people who have just gotten their citizenship, right?
No, they don't have. No, there are illegals there as well.
And there's a big sign that says register to vote here.
Right, and you know who put that there too, don't you?
I have a pretty good guess, Diane. Remarkable. Look at you have so many other stories. Please send us your stories at mornings@WMAL.com. I think we might touch on this tomorrow morning.